Welcome in everybody to what you've all been waiting for, I'm sure. The Ethereal Crown LAN playoffs. You've watched, you've waited. The qualifiers have been fantastic setups, and now we are ready for the main course. I'm super excited, and I'm sure my fantastic co-host Sun Phoenix is excited, but I'm Snowball Ninja, and Sun, how are you feeling?
I'm excited, as you said. You know, there's a lot to be excited about. It's a LAN event that's very exciting. Seeing a lot of faces, putting a lot of faces to names. I was chatting about it with Peach, walking in, and everyone's like, "Oh, Sun," and you're like, "You need to introduce yourself. I don't know who you are. You know who I am."
Absolute mood.
And it's very interesting, but it's very cool. You don't realize how much you've built an image of someone in your head that you've never seen before, and then you see them, and that either totally works or completely shatters your perception of them. But look, ultimately, even from a competitive standpoint, I think we've got a lot of fun Overwatch to look forward to. I think we're kind of set up for a lot of interesting storylines, and I'm fascinated to see how they all play out today.
Absolutely agree with you. I mean, at the end of the day, this LAN is featuring some pretty top-tier matchups, and so as far as storylines go, we're set for some, like you said, incredible narratives, and quite frankly, I am very ready for those to be completely rewritten, to be surprised, to have that plot twist at the end, and that, to me, is, I think, the pinnacle, the apex of what competitive Overwatch ZA is all about. And so, yeah, speaking of competitive Overwatch, can we keep it down, thanks? I'm kidding. Speaking of which, the previous event, the previous tournament was the Sunburst Cup. I think if we touch in very briefly on that, in terms of results and placements, and perchance how that starts our narrative for today.
Well, look, the important thing to note, I think, about the Sunburst Cup is that, yes, it's the most recent competitive tournament. There have been a few community tournaments, park-style tournaments in between, but that was the most recent sort of competitive information that we can glean from the scene, and that was in February. So that was 100 million years ago in esports terms. So while we can definitely look at that and say, okay, these are the teams that we expected to be strong, and that will probably come through in today's matches. There's also that caveat of that was 100 years ago, and a lot has changed in Overwatch, in the community, and within the teams and rosters themselves. So in terms of what happened at the Sunburst Cup, Five Nights came out on top, untouchable. They ran through Pink Salamanders, beat them 3-0, I think, and then in the grand finals, they ran through Glorious Blasters. And that's kind of, I mentioned those two teams because I guess in our head it's obvious, but for the viewers it's not that clear. We're kind of looking at those three teams to be our front runners for today's matchup, for this LAN finals. I think Glorious Blasters, Pink Salamanders, and Five Nights at Freddy's, those are going to be the teams that are going to be looking to finish in those money positions.
100%. And while those might be the three that kind of come to mind immediately, especially now looking at both the previous cup and the qualifiers leading up here, the name that does stick out to me is Anomaly. And maybe true to form, true to their name, as it were. They're a very capable team. They're very capable of, mixing up the narrative and taking matches home very easily. Equally so, though, we've seen them on the opposite side of that scale. And so, dare I say, as a wild card in this event, I think that's something very much to look at and look forward to.
Yeah, I think wild cards are a good way to put it for Anomaly. I think you can perhaps uncharitably characterize them as inconsistent. They are the team that we are looking at as challengers to the throne that those top three teams represent. If we think that those three teams, any of them can take it, we're kind of looking at Anomaly as that step below, looking to challenge, looking to upset that triumvirate, if you will. They are absolutely capable of that, but they're a team who is just as capable of losing to teams who you think they should comfortably beat. And that's kind of the big problem as a person looking from the outside into Anomaly or at Anomaly, is we never quite know what Anomaly is going to show up. They're a team who work very hard, they grind very hard, they've got a lot of talented players, but in the moment it doesn't always come together, and they're coached by Blur, so they've got a lot of things going for them. But it doesn't always seem to come together in the moment. So they're a bit mercurial in that way. It's a nice word I like to use to describe. Like this.
That's my word now.
It depends on who shows up on the day.
That's true.
Not just literally in terms of the human beings, but also obviously how they perform in a particular setup. And this is a very different setup. This is LAN. It's worth noting, guys, we haven't mentioned it. Nearly everybody is here. It wasn't prescribed that you have to be here to play. There are enough internationals floating around the scene that seemed a bit restrictive. But pretty much all the South Africans actually came down to Cape Town, came to the ATK Arena, and are playing here and in person. So it is absolutely awesome to see. The turnout has been tremendous, and I'm looking forward to
what make good narratives. You can't have a story without conflict, and there's going to be plenty of conflict between these teams, I'm sure, hopefully just in the realm of good competitive sportsmanship.
Fingers crossed, guys. Please.
If we see a monitor fly through the background, then we'll just kind of,
I mean, that'd be quite the
that would be quite something. Look, we've spoken about how this lead up has played into all of this. What about and you said it's literally a millennia ago since February, which is mathematically accurate. In terms of the other changes, both for like patches to people, do you think there's anything else significant that's come into play between now and then?
Well, even just thinking back to the qualifiers, which was far more recent, that was at the end of September. We had one weekend and then a secondary follow-up weekend. That'll tell us more about the relative strength of these teams. But even since then, we've had a big patch in between there. Well, I mean, Overwatch doesn't do huge patches. If you follow other games like Dota 2, that's like a big kilometer-long patch. The whole game is completely flipped on its head. Overwatch doesn't really work like that. So big patches are much smaller in scope. And so what that means is we've had significant changes to some heroes, including a full hero rework, basically. In terms
I
of
am
Sombra.
aware and upset.
So the Sombra players are crying. Everybody else is jumping for joy, as it were, for now, until people figure out how to make that hero tier toxic again, which I'm sure is coming soon. And that's something we're going to be looking out for today as well. How do people react to these changes in this competitive environment? These teams will have been practicing, they will have been scrimming, they will have been labbing out some stuff, and now is the time to bring that all to the fore, and we'll see. So there's been that big Sombra change. She's a lot less of a nightmare in the backline. Her playstyle will have to change quite significantly to get big value out of her. And then I think the other big change is the Ramattra change, right? He no longer punches through shields. You've kind of got to slightly alter how you play, and his power against Reinhardt, that dynamic has shifted quite significantly. And against other heroes like Briggs, Sigma, or your traditional shield heroes, have to play a little bit differently around Ramattra now. I think it's a bit weaker. The real strong Ramattras are saying it's probably alright. And a lot of people are like, I don't really think Ramattra needed a nerf. So I'm not sure what the vibe was there. But that hero is different. We'll have to see how that works. And then the final big change was to a lot of the maps. Circuit Royale, Dorado, Lumbani, a lot of them first points changed quite significantly to reduce how dominant defenders could be on those points. So fingers crossed, hoping we'll see a lot fewer full holds on those maps, because there are a lot more routes for attackers to take, flanking routes, routes as a team that take less time to set up.
Yes.
In the past, you'd have to really commit to doing a long flank as a unit. Hopefully that's been mitigated slightly by the changes to the map. So a lot has changed even since the qualifiers.
Which is fine by me, because that means we get to see brand new, fresh Overwatch strats right here in the ATK Arena, which I think we neglected to mention. We are live in the ATK Arena, Stadium on Main here in Cape Town. But yeah, look, we've already touched on a lot of the changes. We've given some of our predictions here, and our three main teams to look at. Now, moving on with hype, there is one last thing to mention, which is, the fun doesn't stop once we have our grand finals, believe it or not. We have our social afterwards. So, if you are here in person, or you're not here in person, what's wrong with you? Come along, pop by, and once we're done screaming at monitors and feeling sorry for ourselves about Sombra changes, then we have a fantastic social to enjoy afterwards, and trust me, you're going to want to be there. It's going to be a great way to celebrate the winning team and wind down, get to know each other a bit more beyond a username.
Yeah, looking forward to that. There are entrance fees and that, so please have a look online. I think from ATK's X, you'll probably be able to find that information, or otherwise on their website. But it would be awesome if you could come to the grand finals as well. Stick around for that, and then the social afterwards. We're looking forward to seeing more than just who's here now. Anybody else, maybe some of the players who didn't make it, some of the other community members. Feel free to stop by at any point in the day, really.
Yeah.
But also for the social in the evening as well.
100%. It's going to be a long day, but it's going to be worth it. We've got many matches here, majority of which you are going to be able to see online. But hey, if you want that full experience, you're going to have to swing by. And again, this is ATK Arena, Stadium on Main. Please swing by, check X for all the details, and prepare yourselves for some fantastic Overwatch. And speaking of being prepared, we rapidly approach our very first match. This is the quarter-finals, and I'm looking forward to every matchup, but what can you tell us about this particular matchup as we approach it?
Right, so it is going to be Anomaly taking on Pangolins, right? So we've already spoke a little bit about Anomaly and how we feel about where they match up in the overall complexion of the scene, right? And it's that wild card team that I like to think of them as the gatekeepers of the upper echelon.
Nice.
Because they're always the bridesmaid, never the bride in that sense, where they're never quite punching through that. But to get to But to feel like you can reliably beat the top teams, you have to be able to reliably beat Anomaly, and that is no mean feat. They are a good team. And so that's going to be Pangolin's journey today, right? It's how can we challenge Anomaly? Can we bring the first upset of the LAN finals in this very first match? But Pangolins are, I would say, with the exception of Crimson, the best placed team to try and take matches of Anomaly. I think Crimson has already proven they can beat Anomaly, so Pangolins will be hoping to follow in their footsteps and really challenge, and maybe they can be the ones to try and upset the top 3 finishers.
I agree, and hopefully for Anomaly being, essentially first out of the gate here, maybe they can set their tone for the rest of the day. But again, Anomaly, it's time to be a wild card, and ultimately, I think something to remember as well is this is double elim. So if you get knocked out, there's still the lower brackets to go through. And man, you mentioned Dota. I remember a couple TIs where there was a team that was knocked out lower bracket, made the sweep all the way back into grand finals. And man, if that's a narrative that happens here today, I'm going to be a very, very happy chappy. But yes, I like what you said about Pangolins actually being able, like one of the teams poised the best to take rounds of Anomaly, and if there's a good back and forth between a team that's got that kind of reputation or prediction, plus the wildcards that now that they're here and in person and together as a group, man, that sounds like a dynamic that's going to be explosive.
I wonder actually how differently these teams will actually perform here in person. That's going to really energize some teams, but it's going to unsettle some other teams. So it can be a real equalizer in many ways for how the team's actual competitive performance plays out. So that'll be interesting to see. I think what you said about setting the tone for Anomaly especially is very important. I think they're a team who can be quite quickly unsettled, quite easily unsettled. So fingers crossed that they'll start off well here and really pose a strong challenge to the teams that we expect to be playing for those money positions.
Absolutely. And yes, there is money on the line, but hey, even if there wasn't, the thrill of, I guess, the kill, maybe, of your other competitors in-game is more than enough to G you up. And speaking of getting G'd up, this first match is literally right around the corner. So, shall we head on over to our very first match of the Ethereal Crown LAN playoffs?
Let's do it.
One spot, yeah, no key, got the game on lock, ayy. Big threes when I take my shot, ayy. On the rise and we ain't gon' drop on the grind. It's our time, just watch. If you want it, you can. Gotta get it, we gotta get it.
Anomaly, as we know, our wild card, our wildcats, our wild child, however you want to say it, they have the potential to send spoilers either way, and that makes for a fantastic matchup. Now, really quick, I think the important thing is to look at the rosters. Sun Phoenix, there are some fantastic players on both sides. I would love to hear your input.
Let's have a look. Let's start with Anomaly. I think that's a team that we're very familiar with, so we'll do a quick run through of them. Kurigai, Rinku Haireru, Lord of Terrors, KK and John Wack. Quite a big troop of players here this weekend, so we might expect to see substitutions. The options here this weekend, so we might expect to see substitutions. There are provisions for that. So I'm interested to see how they operate coming to this match, but they are our favorites coming to this matchup. Then their opponents for the day, for this first matchup, is obviously Eagle Eye Academy Pangolins. Of the two teams, they're the teams we know less well, and at some point in the day we will have a look at their roster. I promise. And there we go, right? It's Rafiki, Solaris, Poached Egg, Jewel and Jabba. I believe both Jewel and Jabba are dirty foreigners. They are Europeans, so they are not here.
Don't let anybody in these days.
But I believe that the rest of them should be here. So it'll be a bit of a different vibe for them. But they're looking to come.
As another, a point on that is part of this is that you need to have, if I can open my notes properly, teams may only field 2 non-South African citizens during any given map. Just part of the balancing. And further information, I think, is also quite relevant that not only is this a double elimination bracket, it is a first 2-3, not best of 3, first 2-3. And additionally, in terms of your bans, hero bans, each team bans 1 hero per map, with the ban impacting both teams. Then teams can only ban a hero once per series, okay? But they may repeat a ban from the opposing team, and each ban must be from a different role than the other team's ban. So those are some things to take note of. And speaking of taking note, here are your ban percentages. What do you make of that?
So these are our most banned heroes throughout the qualifiers, right? Now the qualifiers are a bit of a red herring in a lot of ways. A lot of the times you've got strong teams facing up against much less strong teams. You've got a lot more high percentage of sort of meme bans, and a lot lower percentage of targeted bans. Also a lot higher percentage of responsive bans. We got smoked by Doomfist in the last match. Let's ban Doomfist. So it's going to be interesting to see the ban strategies that teams come into this weekend with, because you've got some time to prepare. You'll have a better sense of who you're preparing for, especially in the first match, and what might serve you best. You also might have a better grasp on the broad meta game as well. Who is strong in Overwatch at the moment, on top of the understanding of who is strong against our most confident playstyle. And so I expect to see the ban meta really narrow down the closer we get towards the finals, and I expect it to be a bit more of a Wild West setup early on in the bracket. So I'm expecting a lot of responsive bans as we go into maps 2 and 3, but I believe we have our first bans ready to go here. No, we don't. That was a lie. I lied right to your face.
That's all right.
I apologize for that.
I'll let this one slide. That's okay. Look, I very much agree with you. It's going to be a Wild West setup. It's going to be people dipping their toes in the water, testing the temperature, see what works, throw it at the wall, and if it sticks, let's roll with it. And especially with, I was just thinking particularly with the tanks. I mean, we saw the significant percentage of the bans are tank related. So, especially with the Ramatra changes and how he interacts with shields, like, man, Reinhardt? More? Yep. So we'll see. Maybe he's going to throw the hammer down. That's a joke for you. So, the map pool. Here's your matches. And as a reminder that there are, as part of this, it's not just one game mode. We have all 6 available. Yeah, I'm looking forward to some of the matches that perchance on the newly adjusted maps.
Yeah.
Because that's going to require, along with, we're in person, this is, finally the tournament atmosphere and all the, the patch notes. Now we've got matches, got maps that have been adjusted. So yeah, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a real interesting dynamic that we see unfold. Have teams spent a lot of time grinding the changes to the maps? Are we going to see teams really knowing what works best, what routes are best, how best to defend against the new possibilities that an attack can throw your way? I expect these teams are mostly very well prepared, but there's limited time and a lot to prepare for. So what are the kind of things that fall through the gaps? It's these kind of things, right? You've got, as you said, all 6 game modes. You've got 100 million maps to choose from. How much time do you spend grinding out one particular map? So the teams will all know the changes. Obviously, it's been in comp for about 2-3 weeks now. You'll have played through, if not all, then at least a couple of the maps quite a few times. But there's a lot of maps to choose from, so I'm excited to see. I think it's worth noting as well that you can pick from any of the map types at any time. So we're not adhering to a strict escort, then hybrid, then X, then Y. You can kind of, go wherever suits you best, and I think that should set challenging teams quite well, because if you lose the first map, you can pick any map from the map pool to try and start to claw your way back in. And for those of you who don't know, the loser picks the map.
Yes.
Home team, which is the team on the left, or there's some way of picking it, they'll pick the first map, and then the team who loses the first map will then pick the second map. And that's kind of a way to try and equalize things out. If you're losing, you've kind of got this semi-comeback mechanic here.
Which is nice, and quite frankly, I think this just adds to the whole, I think of it as like that 4D chess kind of thing. You've got so much that you're juggling with in everything from like physical strats to your mental strats. Like, do you play with some of your best strats immediately? Do you try and mislead your opponent? Do you start off with a map that you're not quite as confident with, or like bring in a strat on their map pick to try and throw them off? Remember, morale is a thing. Like, we've all been there, like whether it's a rank grind or just a bunch of pubs and you get stomped, that's rough to the morale. So playing that 4D chess, which is what these players can absolutely do at this level, they know what they can bring to the table and they know what they can do to their opponent with that. So I'm looking forward to that in terms of having that open structure. It's not like, cool, all right, that control didn't go well, now we're going to move on to hybrid. Like no, they could pick anything.
Yeah.
So not only is there that great potential to play that 4D chess and mess with your brain, there's a lot that's going to be keeping you on your toes, especially if you're at this competitive level as a player.
I think it's also it's great because it means that you can't front load maps that you are weak at. Say control is not your strongest map type, and then hybrid is not your strongest map type. There's a possibility that you front load that, and then you start off on the back foot, win or lose those games. But it goes without saying, at this level, you've got to be able to excel at all the different map types. Either way. So while it is something that can be quite helpful in equalizing in matchups without being too gimmicky, it is, most teams are going to feel confident on most map types. They might have preferences, they might have things stronger, slightly stronger, slightly weak on, but no team's gonna we can't win control. That's not a thing we can do.
They wouldn't be here if they could.
Control is the worst map type to not be able to win, because it happens twice. Well, I guess not in this tournament, but often it would happen twice. Yeah. So you would bookend series with it, first game, fifth game. So if you couldn't play control, you were never going to win a best of 5. So
I still lose with them, so
Well, look, we're not pros. Right?
No,
we can
that's
do
why we're
whatever we
sitting
want.
here.
We can lose all the time if we want. Nobody's relying on us to win games.
Thank goodness.
But yeah, I think the maps are going to be interesting to see. New maps, old maps, hero bans. We didn't touch on it, but Diva was the most banned hero. throughout the qualifiers, and that kind of tracks with my feeling on where the meta game is. Now, if you think about the pro meta game, we're not likely to see much of that play out here. South African players kind of, Arissa is boring and bad, but she's very good, she's very strong, right? And South African players are just like, no, we're just not going to play. We don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to play against that. Nobody wants to see two Arissas shooting each other in the face for 10 minutes. That's not really anybody's idea of a good time. So a lot of these teams are not grinding out hard for meta comps, especially when it comes to that tank role. And that tank role is, so pivotal to sort of describing the complexion of a particular composition. So when you remove that Arissa, you can't just leave the rest of the comp the same and sub in something else. I mean, you could, but more often than not, you're going to be changing other stuff as well. So I'm expecting to see a lot more comp diversity than you might see at the OWCS here in the 80K.
No, indeed,
the Ethereal Crown. So I'm looking forward to seeing that, and also then seeing how the meta develops, because not only are South Africans built different, the meta has changed. While the strong heroes haven't received a ton of nerfs, there's enough change that you think we're going to be seeing something slightly different here, metagame wise.
Especially if you're at that level, that's the kind of stuff that you pick up on. And so, yes, we have the Pro League meta, but as you said, South African Pro League, not so much adhered to. And so, to me, the pick ban and the comp is very much played towards the individual team's strengths, and then perchance against the other team's weaknesses. But yes, more info on the way in the way of our map set. So here, I'm normally picking first, and we're picking Lijiang Tower. Well, you said we top and tail with control. Let's stick into the script that we gave them.
I think you have to start on control.
Yeah.
I think that's prescribed by the tournament rules. So
Yes.
I think we'll expect to see a lot of Lijiang Tower first up, because Lijiang Tower is the most popular map, control map in South Africa, and I'm sure throughout Overwatch. People love this map. As with all control maps, there are a lot of room for different compositions, but Lijiang feels especially polarized. Control center, you can run something completely different from Night Market, completely different from Gardens, so it feels like the variation in compositional approaches is quite high. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you could dominate on Control Center and be completely out at sea on the other maps. So a lot of this will come down to where we start. I'm looking at Anomaly though, feeling like they're going to want to set the tone. We mentioned it earlier. They are the strongest team. We've got our bans here. Now that is a fascinating ban, the ball ban, and that feels targeted to me. That feels like they know that Pangolin's tank wants to run the ball, or this is something they operate on. They'll know this if they've scrimmed this team, which they may have well done. The Kiriko feels like a very generalized ban. We're not that. We don't really want to play against this hero. If we want to play Anna, we want to take the Suzu out of the mix. Kiriko is a very strong hero. She's not the most meta hero. I think the actual peak meta heroes are Brig and Juno right now.
Yeah.
But Kiriko is a kind of a combo breaking hero that you wouldn't mind taking out of the pool if you think that's going to interrupt your playstyle too much.
Well, speaking of interrupting, I fully understand the Kiriko ban, because that Suzu is still disgusting in my opinion. Just that immediate cleanse is fantastic, and so if you can cut out that, as it were, like a combo breaker, I guess like the meme, that's fantastic, because if you interrupt that execute of all these abilities and ults during a team fight, the other team's going to be put on the back foot. Now they've got to scramble to try and bring that back. But hey, those are our bans. And again, Anomaly was the one that was our first pick. So again, our Wildcats are playing the first card from their hand. Is this a pick that you expected from them?
No, not at all. Ball is not hot right now. I hate playing against Ball because I'm a little baby who doesn't want anybody to invade my space.
Yep.
Right? And so it makes sense. It's in a lot of the same ways that Kiriko is a problem, Ball is a problem. Big disruptor, big combo breaker, as we say. But like I said, it feels targeted for me. That's not a hero you ban as a generic ban, right? If you were going to ban something generic as a tank, you definitely pick Diva first.
Yeah.
But it's also worth saying at this stage, maybe it's just Anomaly being like, this is our worst hero to play against. We've encountered it in scrims, and whenever we run into it, we don't know how to deal with it. So rather than taking the risk of them figuring that out early, let's just take it out of the pool and again, set the tone the way we want it to be set.
Well, speaking of setting the tone, I mean, if we look at Anomaly and their lineup and perchance their favorite heroes, Terrans is their tank, and we know that a favorite hero of his is Junker Queen. So if he's looking to bring that to the table, I'm sure they want to play around, their own favorite picks. And I know we got the Kiriko ban, but KK and Wack are favored on Anna and Lucio.
Yep.
So look, I'm a huge Lucio fan. I'm not saying that I'm good. I'm just saying that I enjoy playing him. But yeah, I think ultimately it's a very targeted ban with the ball. I'm okay with that. And Kiriko, that kind of interruption opportunity taken out. The combo breaker, fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. I think Kay especially is quite versatile. I've seen her a lot on the Baptiste, I've seen her a lot on the Anna, as you say, and then as well on the Kiriko. So it's you're definitely banning the hero rather than banning the players with a ban like Kiriko. Don't get me wrong, she can be an absolute menace with those kunais. An aggressive, well, let me say a well-balanced Kiriko can be a real nightmare to deal with. I'm thinking to people like Squishy on IB, who can really dominate with that hero. If not dominate the opposing team's backline, completely zone out the enemy flankers. Things like Traces and Genjis and those kind of heroes, where having a strong Kiriko in your own backline can be such an incredible deterrent. So there's a lot to be said for that ban for sure. But yeah, I'm interested to see, especially how the bans evolve within a match and then also throughout the tournament, because I think that's going to be a fascinating meta dynamic that we see unfold throughout these games.
Even if it is testing the waters of the Wild West in these beginning matches. And regarding pangolins and their, like if we're talking tanks here, Egg is the one that's their tank, Poached Egg, and with a favorite pick of Diva. So again, it's that targeted ban from Anomaly, but not necessarily targeted towards their opponent, targeted towards their own weakness.
Potentially, but I think what that tells me potentially is that they feel like they can handle Poached Egg Diva. There are some hero player combinations that you don't want to deal with, but I suspect that they feel like they can handle Poached Eggs Diva. If they run into issues with pangolins, Poached Eggs Diva is not going to be the source of that. That's not a criticism of Poached Eggs necessarily, of course, but it is perhaps a window into how Anomaly feel about this matchup, where they don't feel like, they feel like if, as you say, they can address their own weaknesses, maybe it'll stand them in much better stead rather than trying to cripple their opponents.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a military adage, which is, never fight the enemy on their terms. So if you can adjust the rules of engagement, as it were, to be in your favor in any way, absolutely do that. Remember, these are competitive players, and so if you as a competitive player know that you're good, you know your strengths and weaknesses, but you also have to know your opponents are on damn near the same level. So you need to be making moves that put things in your favor, and it can literally be as minuscule as just the right ban in the right map at the right time. It's even coming down to mid-match swaps. Like this was the perfect time to swap to this hero, play a bit of Counterwatch. But it's not Counterwatch that we're looking forward to, it's Overwatch. And boy, are we finally ready for this first match. Let's head on over and see the clash between Rage Quit Anomaly and Pangolins.
Let's do it. I mean, I guess we'll just look at us for a bit. We
Yeah, so
are
we're the match.
prescriptive map of the three in terms of compositional diversity. So we could see anything here, but this is going to be a real tone setter for this tournament. We mentioned a couple of times, especially for Anomaly, you are feeling like they need to overcome Pangolins very comfortably. If they're going to be challenging Five Nights, challenging those teams, they need to dominate Pangolins quite comfortably, if not dominate, at least overcome them quite confidently to actually beat them. We do have an issue with overlays here, so we're trying to get that sorted out, but we are underway.
We are underway indeed, and the clash begins here live at ATK Arena, and in the arena, blood will be spilled. Already we're picking matchups, and I like seeing the Baptiste right out of the Brig right out of the gate, and clashes immediately, three being taken, and blood being spilt all over. Anomaly losing more heroes in that initial engagement. The Tracer manages to get out just in time, but hey, ultimately the first cap goes the way of Pangolins.
Yeah, this is very, very good from Pangolins' perspective. This will set the tone nicely for them. We're kind of looking through the eyes of Anomaly a lot of the time, so Pangolins have got a lot to prove here coming into this match. They can take down Anomaly. There's no reason they couldn't put up a significant challenge to the top teams. Rafiki finding Terrans there through the bubble, around the bubble, and that's pretty much team fight over. No tank, no dice.
No dice at all, and there was an incredible response, because I mean, I saw Anomaly get back to try and counter attack as quickly as possible, but just being shut down by the Echo on the bridge was phenomenal. So now we have a few scuffles in the back line and on the flanks. I'm sure Anomaly's going to be looking for that chink in the armor to try and make a play onto this capture point.
A lot of compositional similarity here. Both teams running the Ana Brig, and the Brigs are playing, especially Jabba and Jewel, playing very well around the Ana. Always peeling, always making sure that Amma is happy, but Terrorlord makes them unhappy.
Indeed.
He gets in, they gets that kill, but pays with his life. 55 already on the shot. This is a tough start for Anomaly.
Rafiki also not done, still flying through, and that's several of the team of Anomaly double checking that gravity works. Thank goodness that it does. But this puts Pangolins in a very, very strong defensive position. We've got several ultimates online and 72% left on this first control point.
Yeah, 70%. This is rough here. You pretty much lost fight territory for Anomaly if they can't win this out. But they're going to start off with the duplicate here straight in on the enemy Echo.
Jeepers, and it's an execute as quickly as possible. Rafiki once again picking it up, and it's Solaris to follow up with their ultimate, the Tracer blowing away the Ana. A huge response. Again, Anomaly just haven't been able to get a foot in the door. Poached Egg managing to finally put down John Wick, and now, John Wack rather, like, what do Anomaly do? There's just not enough time. We're in overtime, but it feels like it's just delaying the inevitable. On you go. Can you make something happen? Yes, the overtime is still in play, and it's an absolute bloodbath on the point. Lord of Terran eventually paying with his life, but is it enough? Is it enough time to stall out? Yes, the Echo now goes down, but now it's another 2 kills on their side, and the Diva trying to get away. No, baby Diva's popped out, and the Tracer holding the line. It's minuscule health bars on both teams, but look at that, it's enough. They managed to pull it back on a 99% overtime. Anomaly down but not out.
I'd written them off completely, I'll be honest, coming to that team fight.
Wild card.
I thought we were looking towards the next map, seeing if they could bring it back, but they have done that one map earlier, now back in the mix, but it has to be perfect from here on out. You cannot afford to drop any team fights here. Can't see the ultimate situation, unfortunately. But we do know that Kurigari almost hit the pulse bomb, and if he catch one of those supports, they're sticking together so closely, he might comfortably catch both. Can they find that? Rinku kills his opposite number, and finally, Anomaly starting to find their feet.
My goodness, yes, 1, 2, 3, they fall. Pangolins in their own counterattack deftly put to bed. Look, Anomaly do lose a few, but ultimately the control point stays in their favor, and that is fantastic. Yes, that's another 1-1, and you said it's going to have to be flawless moving up here. and that's 50%. They are going to have to do another successful team fight at least once here, Phoenix.
Yeah, that is an interesting. The Lucio pick's quite interesting. Switching off the brig, clearly feeling like they're not getting enough value out of that hero, which I think makes a lot of sense. Poachtek is not really playing that way. Lord of Terrans, though, what happened there?
I'm not sure. He also managed a swap
signing
out
his own
there.
death warrant.
Cheapers. And again, the scuffle's coming through, but still, Anomaly falling. Multiple kills here. And it's slowly ticking up. That's past 70%. The Diva of Poachtek looking for more kills, and we'll find one on the Tracer. And now scuffling it out on the point. The tank's still nice and healthy. Anomaly doing a great job of just keeping their people alive. Yes, they lose one or two around here, but my goodness, the huge contest, multiple people on there. That was a great boop, and down goes Lord of Terrans again. No tank, no win. John Wack taken out on the Lucio. There's no beats to be played. It looks like their song is up. My goodness, another one to fall for Anomaly, but now we're on overtime. Can they make it back? They got it to 91%. It doesn't look like it. It's objective for secured. Pangolins, whew, they lost it for a brief second, more than a brief second, so well done to Anomaly, but ultimately taking it home. Anomaly, we're still proud of you. That's that wildcard energy we were looking for. So round one, going the way of Pangolins.
I'm impressed with Pangolins. They looked solid in that map. They looked really solid. We were expecting them to be the challengers. There was every chance that they could be blown away here. But that is no matter what happens from now on, that is absolutely not the case. I was really impressed with how their supports were playing. They neutralized that Winston threat very effectively, and they were kind of playing around that Anna so strong, because that's going to be the major target of the Winston. And Jabba recognizing that, sticking with his Anna and shutting that Winston down quite comfortably in the end, and that was a big part of the problem. But we come now into control center. This is going to be a lot more brawly. You can see Terran on the Ramatra. On the
Ramatra, I saw a Cassidy pick as well. So now that it's a little bit more close quarters and your overall terrain change, there's going to be a lot more to work with, especially with those May picks. I mean, a well-placed Ice Wall can stop a pick just like a push just like that. The Ramatra immediately pushing in nice and strong. The punches are flying and they're connecting onto Pangolins. That's two down. Poachtek desperately trying to hang on, but down goes the Ramatra. Anomaly, a very strong start. Immediately the capture point is in their possession, and now we're looking at that energy that we saw in the first round. Anomaly saw how Pangolins were playing, and they've responded in kind.
Yeah, the key to that was taking down the Juno really early. That was the first big Kuragari finding the shot there, getting that kill, but they're doing so well here. Playing behind this Ramatra, blowing people up. The May is such a strong pick here against
huge pick, and there's the team kill again. So Anomaly just needed, I guess, a little bit of a read into how their opponents are playing, and that's another team fight won. I'm very impressed, and honestly, if they can keep this going as their theme throughout the tournament, then I think our wildcards are going to be just fine.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more a reflection of the weaknesses of Pangolins, though. They're struggling a little bit to deal with this brawly playstyle in a way they didn't against the dive. So once again, Terran coming in, stepped up to start. Rinku will drop early.
And out goes the Hanu, not an ultimate catch, but Rafiki still managed to take down the May. And now we've got a lot of scraps just on the outside of the point. It's still mostly health bars for a few of Anomaly, and they've managed to pull it quite back. So very scrappy, like you said, this brawling prey style, but you know, the Cassidy managing to take out Jabba, and then Terran finally taking out both Poachtek and Solaris. So once again, Pangolins brought to heel by Anomaly, and they find themselves in a fantastic position. Yes, it is noted they got 21% on the board there, but the capture point remains in Anomaly's hands.
It was an expensive fight, though, for Anomaly, it has to be said. So hopefully Pangolins can find their way back in here. They're going to start off quite aggressively. Poach struggling in this tank matchup once again. Terran getting the better of that, and the DPS just cleaning up.
The beat goes down, which may be a bit premature, but hey, look, they're getting the kills. That's fine. Kugara finding another. That's 3 down on the side of Pangolins. Poachtek absolutely demolished. by the Mei, and Jabba trying to hold on. Nope, the Anna falls as well. So picking them off as they fall back. That's a 15-player kill streak there. That's disgusting. I never get those. And once again, Anomaly, hugely strong position. That's over 90%. There's only one more chance for Pangolins to take back, but Rafiki's down, and his poached egg. No tank. The DPSs are falling, and it's objective secured for Anomaly. It's 1 apiece as we move on to the next round. Reminder, it's first to 3, and this is going to be a tit-for-tat matchup.
I think the Mei from Anomaly, they really stood out to me. I think that was the key part of this equation. Mei is a very popular hero in the meta right now. Obviously, it literally just comes down to that wall. She offers damage close range, she offers damage far range with the icicles as well. So she's and she's got a team fight winning ultimate. So she offers a lot. And good use of the wall can be a real team fight killer. And you could see that Pangolin's really struggling to operate around that. Ramatra, one of the worst heroes to play into the wall, because when you cut off from your team, yes, you're tanky, yes, you can do a lot of damage, but you're relying on resources from your team to keep you healthy. But we're going to be switching it up here once again, back into a more divey composition.
There we go. Yeah, we've got our Winston, we've got our Diva, and the dive composition comes back out, and it's going to be interesting to see what these two teams can do now that they've kind of had a feel for each other these first 2 rounds. It's a massive scrap between the two tanks, and a lot of scuffles on the side. That's a very bold push from the Diva, and very quickly punished. Poached Egg does take out the Brig, and the Echo dethrones the Diva. But look at that. Ready and waiting are the 2 DPSs, and they take 2 away from Anomaly. So, first control point capture in the way of Pangolins, and we also had an Arna duel off screen there.
Again, Pangolins just shutting down the Anomaly dive so effectively. In my head, I think of Anomaly as a very strong dive team. They like to play this playstyle. I feel like I see Terran play Monkey more than he plays any other hero. So the fact that Pangolins are shutting them down so effectively, we might need to see a response from Anomaly and say, look, this is not working for us here in this matchup. Maybe we need to switch things up, but first they come back in.
Yes, indeed. I mean, we saw them perform very well in the previous matchup with the kind of Brawly comp. But hey, a quick pick from Pangolin's side, and now they're kind of hunting for kills. The Brig chasing down a few. But as they kind of pull back together, it's going to be interesting to see if they do, in fact, return to a bit more of a Brawly comp. The control point is ticking away. Anomaly's going to have to make a move soon.
Indeed, they've got this pulse bomb at the ready. Solaris looking for a target here. He doesn't really want to hit the Monkey. That's the target he wants. He gets the stick as well. Clean as you like. Goodbye K. Goodbye team fight essentially.
Goodness gracious. And again, immediate pressure put onto the tank now. That was a fantastic chink in the armor to attack, and shutting down a team fight maybe before it even happens, giving them more time to rack up those percentages. It's again, here's a battle of the tanks, and the Winston having to run away. The sleep hits him, and Terran goes down. His support with him. Anomaly, like you said, struggling against this dive comp. They Echo, again, Rafiki taking his pick against his doppelganger, and Anomaly forced back off the point. Pangolin sitting squarely on 85+%. There's one more team fight that Anomaly can take here, and if they lose it, that's round 3 going to Pangolins.
Yeah, that's map 1 for Pangolins. It's already a pretty significant upset here at the Ethereal Crown, even just taking a map of Anomaly. So Pangolins looking set to really upset our understanding of where these teams stand. But they're starting off here. They found 1 kill, but they've traded out support. Immediate
trade out indeed, and there comes Solaris in again, but Lord of Terran picking it up as well. It's tit for tat here, but there was an ultimate going down there. Poached Egg managing to finally drop the ultimate, but look at this. They're so comfortable. They're so comfortable on the point.
Oh, what a stick!
What an amazing stick! It's brilliant. Down goes the tank, and then the Echo soon to follow. We're contested on 99%, but my goodness, what a performance from Pangolins. Anomaly holding on for dear life. It feels like we're delaying the inevitable. There's the Lucio beating them down into the corner. They're holding on for dear life. I approve of it, Anomaly, but ultimately it's too little too late. The inevitable delayed and coming to pass. Pangolins taking map 1.
And dominantly as well. They didn't just win map 1, they dominated map 1. And that is flipped the script completely on what I thought the relative strength of the teams were. Lord of Terrans will go home with player of the game, which means, of course, he wins the game. I believe that's how it's 100%. That's why we all play the game.
That was in the script.
Exactly. So that stands out to me. I think, as I said, of Anomaly is a very strong dive team. They're a team who grinds out their strategies and tactics a lot, and dive is something they've leaned on very heavily in the past. Pangolins have totally disrupted that. Between Jabba operating so effectively on the Brigitte around his Ana and Rafiki dominating from the skies, they could not handle that on the side of Anomaly. So a criticism I've leveled at Anomaly in the past is that they can be a little bit slow to adapt, right? And I think we're going to see if that's still the case now, because either they need to clean up their dive a little bit, connect better between the Winston, the Tracer, and the Echo in terms of outputting damage simultaneously, or they need to do a compositional change, right? I think that it's going to be key. This moment right here is key for Anomaly's tournament life. Not only in terms of winning the matchup, but also for, as we keep saying, setting the tone for this week. And they're a team that's mental is very important. And all teams are like that, but some teams can handle losses better than others. I think Anomaly is a team that thrives of winning. That's kind of an inane thing to say, right? But they're a team who needs to get that tone set well to push themselves. So they're going to have to respond here. They're going to have to adapt compositionally or adapt in terms of their play style. But it's worth noting, Fluffy, Snowball,
I'm very fluffy.
We are, well, Fluffy was just here.
Yeah,
He just
was.
brought us some water, right? And we're going to have to see what they can do. But, what I was saying was also worth noting that this is a LAN situation. It's the first match. We're gamers. It's basically the crack of dawn for us here. So maybe teams just need to settle in a bit. And when you're playing a dive composition, that's a composition that can get punished if you're just a little bit off. So we'll see how Anomaly choose to approach the next couple of matches.
Indeed, right out of the starting gate, it's nice to be good and flowing and hit the ground running, but more often than not, you do have to find your feet a little bit. And look, it's credit where credit's due. Anomaly performed very well in the second round.
Yeah.
We saw them to actually bring that to the table and perform well with that composition, and even in the first they almost brought it all the way back. So I don't think there's any reason to count them out whatsoever. But again, it certainly is an upset, especially not just for our own expectations or predictions. That was Anomaly's pick. That was Anomaly's map pick, and they've lost on it, which is noteworthy. Again, performed decently well, but Pangolins, they brought it home quite soundly.
Again, I think back to that ban as well, the ball ban. I don't really see what scares you with that composition against the ball when you don't know there's a ball on the opposing team. Like I can obviously understand on paper how the ball operates against that and why it'll suck to play against. But I've never seen Poached Egg play ball in my life. Ball's one of those heroes that you're like, not all tanks can play ball. You know what I mean? Most tanks can play Diva. Most tanks can play Reinhardt. Most tanks can play Ramatra. But not most tanks can play ball. That's like a hero to do well on. You need to be a ball player.
Yeah.
When I think of ball players, I think of Blur in the South African scene. He's a guy who will ball out of control, right?
He is in fact on the ball.
Right, in more ways than one, frequently.
Yeah.
So, if I'm playing against Blur, I'm like, okay, we've got to keep that ball in the back of my head. Poached Egg is a Diva player. When I think Poached Egg, I think Diva, and she excelled on Diva there, and the team worked so well around it. Wouldn't surprise me to see a Diva ban here, but we do see our first map pick, second map pick.
Indeed, and as per the rules, the loser does pick. So yes, even though Anomaly was that first pick on Lijiang Tower, they have now picked again, and it's Esperanza, and they're playing Push. Now, in terms of what Anomaly are good at, we know that they can handle that with that brawly comp. What do you think of their performance on Push, and what do you think of this Mauga ban from them?
Mauga ban is interesting. I don't know that Terran plays a lot of Mauga, but the second ban is, the Anomaly banned Mauga. I don't know that Poached Egg ban plays a lot of Mauga. The second ban is quite interesting as a response to the Mauga ban as well, taking Mauga's biggest counter out of the game as well. So if Mauga wasn't going to get played, he's definitely not getting played now. So it's an interesting set of bans. Pangolins, I think, in the driver's seat here. It's fascinating to me that they don't even bother banning the monkey, for example. There's no need to respond to what you were showing on the previous map.
Yeah.
So they instead say, let's take that out. Let's give our tank especially a lot easier over time. But I think we're going to see a lot of Junkie Queen here. That is my prediction. First map especially. I mean, coming out of the gates especially, I'm expecting Terran Lord to come out on that Junkie Queen. I think we saw on his little team
sheet,
the graphic that we showed, Junkie Queen was his hero. I've spoken to him, Junkie Queen is his hero, and I know that on push maps he loves to play Junkie Queen. So I would be shocked to my core on an emotional level if he didn't play Junkie Queen to start off with, yeah? So Terran, if you're listening, don't let me down. Please.
Pay attention, Darren.
Yeah, but it's a hero I know he loves and excels at, so it would not shock me. But it also takes the dive out of the equation in terms of normally playing dive, which is kind of a backwards thing to say, which hasn't worked for them. They dominated on the brawl, and I hope you see them lean on that a little bit more in this matchup. It's not to say dive can't work against other teams, but Poach Dig and the rest of Pangolins, especially Jabba on that brig operating around Jewel on the Anna, they showed they do not care 1 inch about your dive. Come at us, we will shut you down, we will dominate.
And I mean, with Anna's being banned as well, so
True.
talking about that, it's just adapt. Like, yes, you're strong with your brawl comp, and so this is going to work well. But you know, if you know later matchups are normally your team, your enemy team is weak to a dive comp, you got to adapt. Go for it. Like, you know, you have that something to be said. Like, if you're good at something, like, stick to it. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But ultimately, if you have another team that has a weakness that you can exploit, you need to be doing that at this level.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think the Anna ban is actually quite interesting, given that Pangolins were running it very effectively. I really felt like that was a pretty significant linchpin of their dive counter on that first map.
I mean, did well with the sleeps on tanks on that last round. Yeah,
exactly. So that's an interesting ban for me, that they're kind of showing like this is not a one-trick team. We feel like you not having Anna is worse than us not having Anna. So that's interesting for me, because while Kay is a very talented Anna player, no doubt, didn't feel like she was a big problem for them. But that is clearly just something they don't want to play against on Esperanza, and we'll see whether that works out in their favor here. Like I say, I'm so fascinated to see how these bans play out, how teams approach them. And this was an interesting one for me. We spent some time dwelling on that ball ban, not really understanding it. Again, the Marga ban, I'm not kind of understanding it, but as we kind of suggested, looking at that first ban right when we saw it, it's anomaly addressing their own weaknesses.
Yes.
They don't want to play against Malga. They don't want to play against Ball. That much is clear,
Yes.
it seems like. And that's telling for their opponents coming into the matches, because this match is on broadcast. None of the teams will see this match live outside of whatever, craning their neck in between rounds or whatever, because they're all playing right now at the same time.
On the back there.
Yeah. So but these things will trickle through. There's a couple of coaches floating around, although to be fair, most of them are also playing. And so it'll be interesting to see how teams respond to this approach from especially Anomaly if they go through. Because Pangolins are not giving you anything away. They're not telling you anything with their bans.
No,
Anna ban, okay. They play Anna, we know that. They're not scared of Anna. That is clearly a tactical decision. And what did they ban first time? Kiriko as well.
Yeah.
Again, not a hero that you're like, oh, that hero is going to ruin you. It's very much a hero you're like, I just don't want to play against. It's not really going to dominate. It's not really going to ruin our strategies. It's kind of don't really want to play against. It's a generic ban. It's a pretty comfortable one.
I mean, it's like you said, it's interesting to see, because you said that, you know, with the Anna ban, it's like, cool, you having Anna, you not having Anna is far better than us not having Anna.
Yeah.
So, which is great and interesting, and I like the way that's being played towards. So, with Pangolins kind of playing their cards close to their chest, do you think with you know, like in the Kuriko ban, we can try and pull some information from. But now with this Ana ban, is there a comp that they're kind of steering towards that they know Ana would suck to play against? Because I mean, again, like you can just switch mid-round. If you're like, cool, let's start off with our Brigand Mercy or something like that, and you're like, oh, okay, now we need Ana, and now suddenly you can't. Is that something, do you think, that the Pangolins are gearing towards?
When I think Ana, I think of Ana as a tank counter first and foremost, right? And so when I think of what they might be scared of, I play a lot of Diva, right? I'm not scared of anything when I play Diva because I'm the best player in the world, obviously, right? But Diva's also counter agnostic in a lot of ways. Because even her hard counters, you think of a hero like Zarya, she can just ignore the Zarya. Zarya's kind of waddling around, chasing her down. But she can move around the map, especially on a map like Esperanza. She doesn't have to operate in the Zarya zone if she doesn't want to. The Diva, I mean. And so you're not scared of anything. Yes, sleep's annoying, it's always annoying, and anti-heal's pretty powerful, but you've got a lot of counters in your toolkit as Diva when it comes to dealing with that Ana pick. So I think it's very interesting that so the point I'm making is they don't have to think about how do we maximize our tank's impact, because their tank is, if memory serves, and this is not true, and I'm sure Coach League will show us this throughout the series, but in my head, she's near enough a Diva 1 trick, right? And so I'm interested to see how, sorry, that means that Pangolins don't have to ban to protect their Diva, because Diva is counter agnostic almost. And Diva's other biggest counter just got a whole bunch of changes in the Sombra, right? Players are still learning how to play that hero. It wouldn't surprise me to see very little of that, or to see one team who's really excellent on it. But it seems like neither team wants to bring that Sombra out right now, but that might be the best way to counter Coach League, and then that might force them to ban the Sombra, and we can see how that can kind of cascade that dynamic into a lot of different things. So the bans also, I love this. I love the addition of the bans to these tournaments. I think it really flips up the dynamic so effectively throughout the tournament. It creates a whole extra strategic layer that hasn't existed in Overwatch up until this point.
And you mentioned Zarya, right? So how do you see, especially on maybe like a map like Esperanza, and you know the utility that popping a shield on your teammate has, with what we've seen from Anomaly's composition so far, do you think Zarya has a place in this upcoming comp?
For Anomaly?
Or for Pangolins to pick?
Pangolins don't have to do anything. They don't have to change anything. The question I think Pangolins are going to be asking themselves once things start to unfold is, can we deal with this jungle queen? Yeah. If the answer is yes, then the ball is an Anomaly's court. They have to respond. They have to come up with solutions. What Pangolins are doing. Until Anomaly prove that Pangolins need to change something, Pangolins should not change anything here unless they have a strategy worked out for this map. I don't think Zarya is very strong at the moment. I think she's got significant weaknesses in terms of her ability to be reactive in team fights. Otherwise, she's playing very brawly style, which other heroes are better at. Why would you play Zarya when you could play a Ramattra or a Reinhardt? They don't do the same thing, but they operate in kind of the same way. A frontline tank pumping out damage. But she doesn't offer a ton of utility, and that's the big problem. And so my expectation is you'll see her more as a way to try and counter out Divas than as a linchpin of your composition out the gate. So to answer your question, is there a place for Zarya? Yes, there's a place for every hero in the game. Do I think we're going to see that hero sort of in a neutral scenario? Almost certainly not. I think there are other heroes that excel in the same place that she excels.
That's understandable. And just again thinking of Esperanza, when it, or maybe not even just Esperanza. Now with these teams, do you think either of them have a higher skill set when it comes to using, you know, terrain to your advantage and using the map to their advantage and such. We know Anomaly, cool, good at brawls, and again, Pangolin's very strong with their usual team comps. Again, I just think of Coach Egg. But when it comes to actually using the map to your advantage, like, you know, we see the switch to May and control point.
That is Sterling in the background.
Where is he?
Right?
Oh, there he is.
There he is. What's his number? 76. That can't be a coincidence. Anyways, carry on with what you're saying.
I was just thinking, because, you know, you shift to control point on Lijiang Tower, May is coming out. The walls, you're in closer, you know, proximity, it's the closer battles. Do you think either of these teams have a bit of an edge in their skill set of playing to the terrain of any given map?
It's hard to say. Look, coming into this match, I would have said Anomaly for sure. Their team, I think, will have had better preparation in more scenarios. They're a team that does a lot of practicing. They're coached by Blur, who's a student of the game in a lot of ways. They'll have figured out a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to positioning and using the terrain to their advantage. But this first map has really unsettled our understanding of the relative strengths of these teams, because Pangolins, I would never have characterized them as a hardcore dive countering team. I mean, you would never characterize any team like that necessarily, but they've showed that they made Anomaly look pretty poor on the dive, and dive is, as I say, one of their better compositions. But when they switched up to the more brawly competition, it was Pangolins who looked all out at sea. So to answer your question, my sense is that Anomaly will be better positioned literally when it comes to terrain. But as an Overwatch player, you will understand the maps, you will understand where you can find the most value as a player with your hero. And also as a team, how to move around the terrain effectively. I will say the Esperanza map is a talent pick because it's Anomaly's pick. And I've already waxed lyrical about the jumper pick from Terran Lord. And so to me it feels very much like a comfort pick from Anomaly, being like, we lost the first game, that sucks. Our dive didn't work, that sucks. Let's put the ball in our court by pushing us to a place where dive isn't necessarily the prevalent meta, and we can rely more on a more brawly comp. We can put Terran on his comfort hero and allow him to potentially dominate and then change the dynamic of this matchup. Put Pangolins on the back foot, force them to react to what Anomaly are doing.
Absolutely, because again, remember the losers pick the map, and so yes, Anomaly picked the first one, but having lost that first matchup, they pick this map and mode again. So, like you said, you've mentioned it before, and I like the way you said it was like, Pangolins don't need to do anything majorly different. They are strong, they are confident, so it feels like Anomaly playing catch up. So having this, you know, I don't want to ace up your sleeve. Maybe it's like maybe it's a 7 of hearts or something up their sleeve. But the ability to go, okay, at least we can control the battlefield choice a little bit, I think is great. And especially as the upset team, the wild card team, bringing that into your favor, are only going to increase your odds.
I think Pangolins for sure would have come into this match feeling like the pressure's not on them. No matter what they do here, you won't look at Pangolins and go, ooh, they should have done better. They get dominated by Anomaly, you go, Anomaly is a strong team. It happens to, they dominated their way through the qualifiers quite comfortably until they met 5 Nights, obviously, and that happens to everybody. 5 Nights, of course, the champions of the Sunburst Cup, so you expect them to win every match they play again. And Anomaly managed to take a map off them in the qualifiers, so they are a team you expect to be dominating teams of what we think Pangolins level is. But Pangolins are flipping the script on us here. And they, winning that first game, it's only going to fill them with confidence. Losing that first game would have not been that bad for them either if they put on a good performance. So they're sitting pretty here in terms of the mentor. And again, we keep kind of looking at it from Anomaly's perspective. And that's just because of our understanding of where they sit in the competitive power ranking. And who we think is going to upset that front-running triumvirate. But there's room for your Crimson, your Pangolins, to upset that triumvirate as well. And maybe it's going to upset everything. Maybe our understanding, these teams have been out for the last month, labbing it up, setting themselves up for success coming into this weekend, and maybe they're going to show us, hey, you actually have no idea who's strong and who's not. And I hope so, because wouldn't that be amazing if we get a Crimson, a Pangolins, and Ethereal Ducklings coming in and dominating in their own way.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned with 5K it being, you know, the winners of the previous tournament, but still having a map taken off them. We know, like, you know, you see a 3-0 scoreline, you're like, oh, domination, but it could have been way closer.
For sure.
My memory's terrible. Do you remember much about that match where they actually did manage to take one off of them? And yes, this is, you know, however many millennia ago, and much has changed, patches changed, people have changed, players have changed. But with that, do you remember what worked for them?
No.
Yeah,
That's
neither
a
do I.
question. I don't. But knowing Anomaly, they tend to do a lot of the same stuff. So it wouldn't surprise me if they... Look, when I say they tend to do a lot of the same stuff, what I mean is they've got strategies for scenarios, and they execute on those strategies as often as they can. And when they come up against really strong teams who can dismantle those strategies, they sometimes struggle to adapt to those scenarios. So I'm sure, I can't remember to answer your question, but I'm sure it was a scenario where they had a particular strategy that worked really well in a particular scenario, and that's where they excel. And we saw it, the dive wasn't working. Now, Control, you don't have that much time to actually respond, to adapt mid-map, but you saw when the strat worked, total domination. When it didn't work, slow to adapt. And that's been the weakness for this team. I'm sure they're so flipping tired of me saying that, because I say it every time. But prove me wrong, damn it. That's on you, it's not on me.
Rewrite the narrative.
So I don't know what, but they're not the kind of team where they're like, do that. That'll work. It's like, no, that worked for you on first point of King's Row. And that is, you knew that would work, that's why you were running it. And you know what works for you on first point of Esperanza. You know what works for you in this scenario. But it's not always going to work, right? That's how competition works. You're going to win some games, you're going to lose some games. But it's going to be interesting to see how they respond to Pangolins here. Because we would have been expecting, look, Anomaly are not underestimating anyone coming to this tournament. Nobody's underestimating anybody. So they would have known that every team is going to pose a challenge. But I don't know that they would have known that Pangolins are going to dismantle the dive so effectively. And so that's very unsettling for them. And I think it's going to tell us a lot about the tournament life here, how they respond to that. And I think this response we've seen so far, pick your map that speaks to the strengths of your main tank, is a really good approach to start off with.
That's true. Look, we do apologize for the extended yap section. Technology's great when it works. When it doesn't, everyone's upset. So we've been filling the time a little bit. I think we may well be throwing it to a break for a little bit, just while we sort that out. Listen, the players are fantastic, but they need their tools in perfect working order. So while Diva goes and recalculates her defense matrix, we are going to take a very short break, hopefully, and we'll be back with you shortly afterwards, okay? Don't go anywhere, don't break anything. I don't know if Peach is still there, so... Because Peach is running around. By the way, we say Peach, we're not talking about the delicious succulent fruit. We are talking about the delicious succulent man.
He's a delicious succulent fruit in his own way, right?
Yeah, no, so just maybe just a quick shout out while we hijack the spot. Shout out to Peach, man. Peach is the production coordinator for this entire thing. Like this entire, from the stream to the event, like he is the integral cog in this machine. So what a champion. You can't hear him, but we can. And that's predominantly because he's in our brains rent-free, but also because we have him in our headsets as well.
Yeah, if anybody who knows Peach knows he's extremely diligent and hard-working. And a lot of the moving parts, he's keeping corralled and operating smoothly. So yeah, it is a lot of work. There's a lot of moving parts at a LAN. I'm sure anybody who's ever been to a LAN or understands a LAN knows there's a lot of work to do.
So speaking of that voice on our heads, both of us were just listening to that. Regrettably, the tech issues are